came up with a cool blog idea, which is something I'd never thought of before, which was having your own personal domain name. Like even your own kids who are still like pretty little, like they've got their own domains kind of logged in because you did that for them.
They do.
So yeah, tell me about that. Why do you think that is going to be important?
So again, it kind of goes back to my whole personal branding message, right? I think that my kids or anybody really, like they need to have a place where somebody can go to learn more about them. Mm-hmm. The resume is going to be old news. Mm-hmm. And the reason I believe that is because the next generation of leaders like myself is quickly rising, and we don't look at resumes. Okay. Now, I'm not saying a resume is not important in 2019. I think in today's world, it's super important to know who your audience is. Yes. So if I'm a college student and I'm going to go apply for a corporate position, and I know that the person that I'm going to be reaching out to is, a little bit older than me, maybe they're in their 50s, 60s, more traditional, that like by knowing that in advance, then I can create a resume to appeal to that audience. But if somebody comes up and applies with me, you're going to have more luck making a portfolio, that's what a personal domain is, right? It's set up, it should be the portfolio of that person, maybe even a video that tells me who you are and why I should care. So I just think that there's going to be more entrepreneurs like myself who are quickly, right? I'm 36 years old. It won't be long before I'm 46 years old or 56 years old. And I just know that many entrepreneurs in our generation don't look at resumes. So that's why I think having that personal domain is so important. Okay. Yeah. It should be, the personal domain should be the resume.
Okay, so do you see that, say, maybe 5-10 years from now, if someone's applying for a job, you will just sort of, maybe send a cover letter and a link to your personal domain? Is that what you are foreseeing?
I mean, I think people should do that now. So I think if I have a resume that I'm taking to an employer, I think at the top where people would put their email addresses, they should still put their email address, but they should put their personal domain as well. Okay. The goal of the resume, in my opinion, should be to get people to my personal domain where my portfolio is.
Okay. Yeah, so what kinds of things would you see what kind of hints would you have for people putting together a personal domain? What should they put on it? How should it be organized? That sort of thing.
It should definitely radiate you. Yeah. Right? Like, who are you? I mean, when you go to my personal domain, CollinAustin.com, you are going to quickly know who I am. You're going to know, you're going to see my bio, which has my story, right? And it talks about, this kid who couldn't get on the bus and ended up creating a scooter shop, and that led to, a coffee business that I ended up selling that led up, this whole trail of, getting to the podcast, getting to Repaint the Wall, like all of it is on there. Okay. It shares my influences in that bio, like the companies and the people who have had an impact on my brand and my life. And then it has links to my companies, has a link to New Scooters for Less, has a link to Repaint the Wall, has a link to the WHOA GNV Podcast, and then it has links to all of my social media platforms, right? Because that's where I engage, that's where I connect and talk to my community. So having the goal, get people to my social media, so I can build relationships with them, that's what it should do.
Okay. How would you distinguish this from, say that somebody was starting up a business and they were trying to build up their brand? I'll give you an example. I just had breakfast this morning with a guy who runs his own insurance agency. He actually says he knows you when he says hi, Larry Hartfield.
Okay, yeah. Larry's great.
Okay, Larry's awesome. Yeah, so suppose that Larry were you were to say, hey Larry, you need a personal domain. How would this differ from, say, his business domain?
So, I mean, it's a little bit, I feel like it's going to be a little bit different with like an agent, for example, because an agent is the brand, right? Like if I'm a real estate agent or an insurance agent, you're very much the brand. So there might not be a ton of difference, but for like Collin Austin, for example, like my personal domain is way different than my websites for my companies. Like New Scooters, sure, there could be a bio and a place where we share the story for New Scooters Plus. Yeah, you can walk right through. Don't even sweat it. There might be a place for New Scooters for Less, a bio and stuff on New Scooters Less's website, but that's my business, and it has products on there. It has our services on there. And sure, it shares a little bit about the story, but it's mainly business focused, where my personal domain is not. My personal domain really defines that I'm an entrepreneur. Now, let me think. I was going to say one more thing about that. I guess that's really. I mean, I think that one way to really frame this up in people's minds is that I might not always be connected to New Scooters for Less.
Right.
By building my brand, if I sell New Scooters for Less or Repaint the Wall or the podcast or any of these other things that I'm involved in, guess what? My personal brand doesn't suffer.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's just an extension of who I am. Right. If you look at it, actually this is a good example. One person talked to me about, a friend of mine, his name's Whit, asked me a question saying, are you what's the hub? What's the hub? If you look at a wheel, what's the hub? What's the spokes? And I had to think about it for a little bit, but I'm the hub. Right? So I'm the center, and I'm the visionary. I'm the one who is putting this grand vision together, and then New Scooters for Less, Repaint the Wall, the podcast, speaking, and anything else I decide to touch, including that coffee company, which I owned for a short period of time that I ended up selling, like, those are all spokes.
Right.
Those are all coming off of the hub. Okay. So that's a good way to think about it.
All right. Yeah, that's really interesting. It's kind of a rather new idea. So, what sorts of things would you, just on the flip side, what would you advise people not to put on your personal website? Like you wish to have all these resume do's and don'ts. Are there any things that you would find annoying or off-putting on a personal site, domain site? No.
I mean, I actually think that the more real and authentic the person is, the better.
Okay.
It's funny because even when we think about resumes, right, like people focus on all the positives, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm great at. This is what I did when I worked at these companies. You know what impresses me more is the failure resume.
Yeah.
When you list everything that you have done wrong, and then you tell me what you learned from it, to me that's more impressive.
Ooh.
Right? So I think a personal branding website is a place to say, I messed up, or to show, I mean, it's really what we do with the vlog. I mean, I'm by no means a perfect entrepreneur, and if you go back and look, if you go back and you look at my history, you even go back and look through the vlogs that originally started on New Scooters for Less's YouTube channel, like you find mistakes, you see me, like I've admitted to even watching myself and being like, damn, Collin, you could have said please, like by barking an order at somebody, which is not the way that I want to lead, you know what I mean? Sure. But I let it go anyway, because it was real. And like, I'm a human being that's gonna learn from that and improve. And so I think your personal domain is a perfect place to be transparent. And the more transparent, the better.
Oh, that's really interesting. I see a lot of meat for another blog topic right here.
Yeah. this is what happens. I'm excited.
Yeah. There's synergy. That's why I put this asterisk there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so the more the real, the better. That's good.
Well, because we connect. We connect with that. You know, especially in today's social media world where everybody's really trying to paint this perfect picture of themselves. So when you get on there and you do the opposite and you're actually very raw and real and authentic, well, that builds human connection and people can actually relate to that versus like the perfect Instagram picture.
Yeah, that's surprising. I'm glad you told me that. Okay, so how do you recommend using your personal domain in your business? Let's say you're a recent college grad and you're applying for jobs and stuff. How would you recommend that, say, one of your sons were to use their personal domain once they get to that stage?
Definitely. I mean, if they're looking for a job, one, I think they should share everything that they've done up to that point. So I mean, we haven't done this yet, so I don't want it to be like, oh, we've done this. But you know, like you said, hey, Collin, you have your son's domain names.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, I mean, they're only 9 and 5, and I'm thinking about sharing some of their stuff already.
Wow.
Like my son, like Schaefer, he just ran a 5K on Saturday in 20 minutes and 40 seconds.
Wow.
Like for a 9-year-old, that's pretty impressive.
Wow.
So like sharing content and videos of that, I think would be good. Like I could start building his resume. I could put 9 years old, this 5K, you know, I could put that on there. But if I was a college student, for example, right now, I would put my resume on there. I would show the things that I'm involved in, the organizations that I'm involved in. Like if it's clubs at UF or something, for example, like I would list that stuff on there. I would tell my story, even if my story is, I'm from Fort Lauderdale, I went to this high school, I participated in the marching band, you know, whatever that story is, like I would share that story as it is right now, knowing that that story will change.
Right.
And that's, I mean, it's really just a place to highlight who you are, your abilities, and then even your vulnerabilities.
Okay, cool. So I take it this is the sort of thing you're going to sort of endorse for your clients at Repaint the Wall then?
Yeah, which is funny because I just told you that we don't do websites, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we are, like, I don't know what the future of the domain and websites is. You know, I actually think that long term, websites are going to be less relevant because of things like voice technology, by us asking Alexa where to go and things like. I think websites won't be as relevant, but that's still a ways away.
Right,
and right now they are relevant. So that's why I recommend that parents buy their kids domain names and start thinking about grabbing hold of that online real estate, for example.
Right.
Because that's what it is. Like a domain is online real estate.
It is.